Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Real Stories of Hurting Moms. My name is Cathy Taylor, and I have my friend Dawn here tonight. Dawn is are you in Chandler? Chandler, Arizona, right? Or is that where you live?
Queen Creek, outside of Chandler.
She's in Arizona. She's a leader. And quick little story before I just turn this over to her. So she is one of the people that I went on a cruise with. Some hurting moms. She was in an online group, and they decided they were going to take a cruise together and meet each other. And so they invited me. It was leaving out of my hometown of Long Beach. So I thought that would be kind of fun. And I got another hurting mom from my area, and we went and we met each other, and we spent like 3 or 4 days together. It was so amazing. There were 7 of us all together, and just to be able, we had so much fun. We didn't hardly talk about our kids at all, but we had that common bond. So it was really, really special. But before I turn this over to her, also, let us know where you're watching from. I love to see where we've got moms watching. We have moms from all over the place. And then also, if this is your first time to watch Real Stories of Hurting Moms, let us know about that. And we're just glad you're here. I'm so happy to see your moms. I wasn't here last week, and I'm really happy to be back and to be able to interact with you. So Dawn has a son, and I'm going to let her tell her own story, but I know a lot of you are going to be able to relate to this. So Dawn, go ahead and share with us.
All right. Thanks again, Cathy, for letting us talk about our story a little bit. My son was born, which I call normal, but soon it was very evident that something was wrong with him and his behavior at school and his interactions with other people. So when he was in second grade, he was actually diagnosed with a mental illness. And that was difficult to hear. And so through school, we had a lot of trouble. There was a lot of psychiatrists, psychologists, medical doctors. You have that whole team around you trying to figure out exactly what's wrong and how to kind of navigate this thing called mental illness. They did warn me when he was younger that he would start self-medicating at one point, and to make sure that I didn't have anything in my home that he could self-medicate with. But that's not where he found it. So he started self-medicating when he was in junior high. And it just went, he was in trouble with the law by the time he was 16. And he finished high school with very specific services for him. He finished high school with 4 hours of class that was with him and a teacher, and that's it. So no interaction with peers. And this was a whole year, so it was just 4 hours a week, and it was just very difficult to parent this child. My blessing. And as time went on, he got out of high school, and then it really snowballed because he wasn't able to keep a job, and he was into trouble more, and he started self-medicating more, and he was in prison when he was 18. Then he would come out and he would get in trouble again, and it's just a cycle. And once you're in the system, you're in the system.
Yeah.
So they see, oh, you've been to prison, so let's put you back in prison. Mm-hmm. And at the time, he wasn't designated SMI, which is severely mentally ill. So he was in with everybody else, general population, which he learned a lot of really bad habits. So yeah. We got through that, and he got a designation of SMI, and then his trouble that he started getting into was more of, they would put him on probation, and they put him on probation once, they put him on probation twice, and he just recently violated his probation, and he's serving some time in the jailhouse. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. The Lord has his hand all over it. But what I want to talk about is not necessarily, his story, and that I want to talk more about how I felt and how I could walk through this and deal with this. Because it's like anytime you have a heartbreak, anytime you have a disappointment, it's going to take some time until you can process through it. Mm-hmm. So it took a lot of time for me to process through it, and some really good, outside help and support groups that I could really wrap my mind around what I was dealing with, and what my role was. I really had to define what is my role. He's an adult now. Mm-hmm. And he's making these choices, and he's mentally ill, and I want to help, I want to fix, and that's not the right path at all. Trying to fix, trying to, control, because they have an ability at some point to make really good decisions. There's an area that's a gray area. And it's like you put them into a situation and you kind of help them navigate it on their own. And then you step back and you can see their ability, as a mentally ill child, what their ability is. Then you can kind of gauge to where he can meet expectations of others, like probation. Can you follow these rules? And there's some safeguards put into place for people with severe mental illness in the probation department. They have a strong team, but they're more encouraging and not so dictatorship about him following the rules. They're like, okay, well, you have this set of rules, 10 of them. I'm so proud of you. You did, you were able to accomplish 4. Next month, let's try 5. Mm. Just, it's a progressive thing. But at that point, you really have to not take over for them and not, like I said, not try to control the situation. You just have to allow him to make his own mistakes and allow him to, within reason, go through the consequences of those mistakes.
That's so hard to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is knowing where to draw that line, or, as a mom, we want to help them, we want to fix them. And then especially when you have the mental illness aspect on top of it, because it would be easy. I think it would be easy for me to think, well, it's because of the mental illness that he's doing this, and not expect them to take responsibility. But you're saying that they can take responsibility, or he can first.
You just have to learn what they can and what they're capable of and what they're not capable of. And that takes a lot of just being in tune to them and not making excuses for them. That's a big thing. Do not make excuses for them. But you have to define the gray area, and you can't let them manipulate, because they're very good manipulators. Can't let them manipulate the situation. You just have to hold them accountable for what they can be responsible for. Like, if he doesn't have any income, he's not going to be able to pay probation fees. However, there's other ways he can earn money to pay those fees. And just different things like that. But in thinking about it, if we take away, his consequences, he's not growing, for one. And then what are we robbing him of? What growth? And then what testimony? So if I would save my child from everything, then he's not going to be able to have this big testimony that I know that the Lord is really working on with him. I really believe that deeply. I've talked about it several times, that, he's just writing his own testimony. Well,
you know what? It's true. I mean, that that's a good way of looking at it, and coming to the point where you realize what you can and can't do. And we were talking earlier too about like this whole testimony thing, about how, as you've been going through this a lot of years now. How old is he now?
He'll be 27 next month.
So you've been going through this for a lot of years with him, and so, but you were sharing with me about how you can look back and see where God's hand was in it. I mean, we might not know that at the beginning, and I would say that to all moms out there. A lot of times we feel like, we've got to fix everything, but as we go through it, the longer we go through it, the more we can look back and see where God has been such a huge part of, teaching. And what about us? What, not only is he learning, would you say that you're learning a lot through this as well? You've got your own testimony in this.
Oh, definitely. I do. And I would always ask God, I'm like, why me? Why did you bless me with this child? And he really answered that not too many years back ago. And it was more to teach me about myself, and more for me to dig deep and really lean on him more. And everybody's got their story. Everybody has their testimony, but that, having a mentally ill child and navigating it alone. I was married, and my husband left when he was very young, very young. And it was very hard. For both of us, my son and myself, to navigate all these years.
Sure.
Just, as a single parent. And like I said, he is the biggest blessing that I've had, and he's taught me more about myself than anybody, and just relying on the Lord. And I really feel sorry for the people that don't have those drives, those points in their life where they can really, really lean into the Lord and see what he's going to do with the situation. Because when you have nothing but him, that's all you can rely on. And I'm blessed, so blessed, that I got to experience that over and over and over again in my life, where he was the only thing I could rely on in my life.
Yeah.
And and Ben, he's now being able to look back, and I'm like, look how you were blessed through this situation. Look what he did here for you. Look what he did here for you. He's with you all the time. And he's really starting to process through that and think about that more and more as we have our conversations, on the phone now. So it's very interesting.
It's like that can be your role, is to point out to him the times that God is showing up for him, to point out. There's people making comments, or Lisa in North Carolina says she's dealing with the same situation now. It's really hard to go through, to pray for them. Somebody else asks a question. She says, so it's wrong to rescue an adult child from the consequences of a first offense. I don't know what do you think about that? My first thought is, well, if you rescue them from a first offense, there's probably going to be another offense. I mean, it seems like it keeps going.
Yeah, but she's got a good point, because this is what happened with my son's first offense, because I was really encouraged by other people to give him away to the system and let the system take care of it. Well, at this time, he was not designated SMI.
Okay.
So that's why at 18 years old, he ended up in prison. And if I had to do it again, I would have done things very differently. I wouldn't have just sat there and said nothing and I would have been his biggest advocate. I wouldn't have saved him, but I would have been his biggest advocate. I would have been front row with medical records, with, different things that could help his case. Rather than let the judge just tell him, I told his attorney he had a mental illness, and the judge says he doesn't have a mental illness, he has an addiction, and sent him to prison at 18.
But you
So
already had been through doctors and diagnoses, and I mean, you already knew that he did. So you're saying that even though you might not have been able to change the prison thing, you would have been fighting for them to recognize
yes,
mental illness part of it. Yeah.
absolutely. And now is a good time because it's popular now for, it's out in the media, mental illness, there's
Yes.
talking about it more. So there's more of an opportunity now for our boys or girls to be able to get the help that they need. The resources that weren't there before are there now. Like I was sharing with Cathy earlier, my son is in jail. It's a good thing though, because he's in an SMI unit for the very first time of any of his incarcerations. He is taking a mental health class in jail. He has a 12-step program in jail. He's medicated, not just the medications that he had before he went, but they actually saw that he needed another medication and medicated him with an additional med to help him regulate. So where he's at now is exactly where he's supposed to be. And, I wouldn't change that, but that's our experience. But the word that I can give to the people that, like Lisa, I believe it was, that please just be his biggest advocate or her advocate. And always tell them how much you love them, no matter if you can stand them at the end of the day or not, because there's days, but you just have to keep reminding them, yes, I love you, no matter what, I love you.
That's
and that's
important.
foundation. And it also gives them more of an understanding of the Lord and his love for us. If you let them know and exhibit that love for them on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Renee, who was asking about the first offense, she says she thought, and she must be talking about her daughter, got into a pretrial program, like a probation, so that after 12 months, if there's no other arrests, the charges are dropped. So that's because she went to bat for her and fought for her. So she's still in the system and paying her consequences, but she's got a program. That's really good. And I guess sometimes that's what it takes, is somebody to fight for them. And mom is the one who it ends up being most of the time.
Yes, because they're not going to say anything. Don't take it for granted that, like, my son will not advocate for himself.
Yeah.
He won't tell people he's SMI. He won't, offer up the additional information. Like, I've been on meds, since second grade. They put me on amphetamines and,
Yeah. So he doesn't, that makes sense. He doesn't,
they don't
talk about it.
like that. So it's our job to communicate that for them and keep it just as factual and, as you can.
So I see a lot of moms are on here, dealing with stuff. Sylvia says sometimes she just wants to pull her hair out. But Lori says, yes, we have to let them know that they're loved. And that's something, I don't remember who said it. I heard somebody said one time, though, I'll probably get it wrong. Maybe it was you who said it. It was you, I think. What did you say about, I'll be with you in your recovery, but I'll love you? Something about being with them or coming alongside them in their recovery, but not in their addiction. So we still love them in it, but we're not going to cater to it when they're recovered. A lot of us, I know with my kid, a couple of my kids that have had issues with substance abuse, it's like they want to get help, and I'll support them in it, but a lot of times they go back to it. Those are the things that we just can't control.
Well, it's a process for them too, just like it was a process for me through Celebrate Recovery and codependency. It was a process. It wasn't like I wasn't codependent overnight, and I didn't fall back and I didn't fail.
Yeah.
So we showed them the same grace. Of course, you're celebrate, just like the probation officer celebrate their victories. Yay, you did 4 good things this month, you know.
Yeah.
Perfect. So it's you got to celebrate that and not.
Lori. Oh, sorry. She just said, I'll help you in recovery, but I will not be part of your addiction.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I got excited when I saw the comment.
No worries.
When somebody else says her daughter spent 6 months in jail, it was the best thing that ever happened to her.
Huh.
But
so we don't know what's going to happen. You know, we can, if we've done the best that we can do and we've given it to the Lord, and the Lord will work good things. He always does. Romans 8:28. He will always work good things. We don't see that right away. We
right.
see of our child being locked behind bars, but what if that is exactly where the Lord wants him at that time? What if there's a godly man that the Lord puts in the same place to speak truths into to our child's life? We don't know the what if.
It's one of the things that I pray all the time. With my kids, especially when they were out there, would be praying that God would bring people into their lives that would point the direction to Him. And but yeah, you're so right about that. It's just and I think too in that we turn our focus off of our child and turn it onto the Lord. The Lord has things for us to do too. He has things for us to learn. He has a plan for us. There's ways we can do good, but if we're so focused on our child and we're so busy trying to fix what we can't really fix, we miss out on, I think, on what God has for us a lot of times.
That's true. That's really true, because they do the, like any special needs child is a huge responsibility. It's like you think that, you know, once they're 18 then they get out of the house and everything, but it's not that way, you know. So you do really need to find what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to be navigating this. And what if there's another mom out there that is walking the same walk and really just needs to hear from you that you're struggling, you know, then you can connect with that other person and you can create a bond there and you can support each other. You know, that's basically what it's about. But if you keep everything inside and you're not talking about it and you're not, you know, it's like, oh, how you doing? Fine. We've all heard that, right?
Yeah.
Really, you just need, you know, someone to talk to. But you have to find somebody that speaks your language. And that's why I love this group, because there's people in this group that speak my language every day in those rooms. And I know that when I go in there, it's a safe place. And if I'm having a bad day, I can say it and they understand, because they've been they've been discouraged. They've been, you know, their hearts are hurting too.
I think, and that's one of the main things about this whole, like you said, the whole group and being it's even coming on here on the Facebook and hearing each other talk and making comments, and it's like a community, but being part of one of the groups where, you know, how many groups have you led? You've led several.
I think we're going in January will be our 4th.
That's
but
awesome.
We don't leave the other girls alone. No, we have monthly dinners and we all get together and
you don't want to. That happens a lot of times. They don't want to end their time. But the thing about it is the connection is forever. We meet in these groups, and even when the groups last 10 weeks, and you grow so much. I have so many moms tell me how their whole life has been changed through this. But then you stay connected. That's what's beautiful about it. And even like you and I, we met on that cruise like over a year ago, and we've seen each other once since. But it's just like, I just feel like we know each other. You know, you just know each other. You're just, I don't know. There's something really special about it. God is doing something. The whole Hurting Moms program is His program, His design, and I sit in awe at what He's doing and things that I would never have thought of. And I get excited about that. It's like you said earlier, I don't want to miss out on what he's going to be doing in my life as well as in the lives of other moms.
Yeah, because you just never know. I mean, you see, like we were talking about breadcrumbs earlier, you see these breadcrumbs, that he leaves, and then it just builds into this big, huge, beautiful loaf of bread, I guess. But
It is true. It's the little things along the way, and the longer that you do it and the more you learn to trust God. And I think that's so much what it's about. You talked about fear, about how fear, we were talking earlier, how it paralyzes us. We get so frightened, we're paralyzed. I can remember being paralyzed. I remember taking a week off from work just because I was just hurting so badly, and I was trying to figure out what I could do, how I could get to a better place. And so I was like being paralyzed, but we don't have to be that way. Walking into it, facing it, and we're better together. So it's so much easier to face all that when you're in community with other moms that totally understand what you're going through. Nobody understands this, ladies. I believe, and I've been doing this for a long time now, I believe that nobody other than another hurting mom really understands the depth of this pain. And that's why being connected in a group or in a support group is so important. It changed my life. It still continues to change my life all the time. It's amazing.
back to what you were saying about the fear. You know, what if you stepped out of the fear? Because a lot of our fear is based on our wild thoughts. Well, if this happens to him, then this,
Yeah.
then this, and your mind just spins, and you create all this whole, what I call anticipatory anxiety, for nothing. And then it's usually not, it doesn't play out the way that my mind makes it up to be. But what if, when we feel the fear, we walk into it, like you said, and we just kind of, okay, what are you going to do now? Okay, I took this step. He asks us to take one step at a time. So what if I take this step, and then you wait for the Lord to see what he's going to do. And then you take the next step. And
Yeah.
so you just walk out of the fear, but maybe you take a couple back steps. You took the first step, so you just keep, walking through and kind of reframing it in your mind so it's not so fearful. It's more in anticipation
Right.
of what are you going to do? you know,
It's
I'm
just
here.
one step at a time, right? One day at a time. Hey, really quick, Carol says, how do I find a Hurting Moms group to attend? I need a face-to-face group. Um, on the website, hurtingmomsmendinghearts.org, you go to groups and there's a map, a group locator, and you'll be able to see if there's a group in your area. If there's not, an online group is a face-to-face group. You see each other, you hear each other, nobody else can hear. You're in a private meeting room. You were in an online group before you started. Can you talk to that a little bit?
I was kind of hesitant. I'm like, great, an online group, something, I didn't know what to expect, but it was the funniest thing. Our group just became so tight, and because it was an ungodly hour on Saturday morning, I think it was like 8 or 9 o'clock. So everybody shows up in their robes and in their beds. And one of the ladies, I love her to death. She would show up, she would just sit in her bed and just talk. And she'd have she had a little duck tucked under her hair right
She lives on
here.
a farm. She lives on a farm.
So you just get to know people very intimately. And this is the group that went on the cruise. And
Yeah.
so it was just like, even though most of us had never met, it was like we were sisters and we really bonded. I mean, you pray with these ladies, you cry with these ladies, people pour out their hearts. If you can't get to a live group, please try the online group. Give it a shot. step out of that fear, step out of that stigma, and just give it a shot.
It's I tell people that too. I mean, and I was the same way you were, Don. When they started talking to me about we should do online groups, and I was like, oh no, we're not doing online groups. That doesn't sound safe. And then we did a survey, and a lot of people said yes, they would be in one. So I was like, well, then I'm going to lead the first ones, because I still was really skeptical. And after the first night of the group, I was completely sold. I just thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We can hear each other. The only thing that you can't do in an online group is you can't hug each other. That's the thing. You can't give the hugs, but you just get to know each other, and it's just I don't know. I see Alice is on here, and Alice has led several online groups herself. She leads usually Saturday morning groups too. So we have a few groups getting ready to start. We have one starting actually. It's tomorrow. This Saturday, not tomorrow. Saturday though. There's one starting Saturday. We've got one starting on the 12th. One starting on the 25th. So I would, if you're in a lot of pain tonight and you feel all alone and you need encouragement and you need some tools to help you through this season, this painful season in your life, and there's not a group in your area, I really want to encourage you to register for an online group. You will not regret. I've never had anybody regret it. And there's a link. There'll be a link above this video. We're already out of time. Doesn't the time go fast?
It flew.
Do you have any other things on your notes that you feel pressing that you want to get out there?
Just there's different groups. There's different support groups for parents of children that have mental illness or adults. So I encourage you to seek those out and get involved in those, because they have a lot of really valuable information. CR really was very important to me in helping me navigate my codependency with my son, and we really have a much healthier relationship now, and it's we're both happier. So
she's talking about Celebrate Recovery, and they are all over the country. I lead Celebrate Recovery at my church. There are Celebrate Recovery groups. There's like 35,000 groups across the U.S. and around the world. So there's probably one in your hometown. So I would suggest trying to do that as well. We are out of time, and I'll be back next week. And Dawn, thank you so much for being on here, and thank you this is a hard subject. This is something that people have a hard time talking about, but you've done a great job getting it out there.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
And ladies, Dawn, when we get off, go ahead and you can look at the comments. Feel free to respond to the comments. There's a lot of comments. Sometimes they start coming kind of fast and I can't keep up with them. Listening to you and trying to read the comments, and then I space out. But anyway, ladies, we're all in this together. You're not alone. We are all in this together. And as always, I pray for hurting moms. I really do. Honestly, wake up praying for hurting moms and go to bed praying for hurting moms. I know what that pain is, and it's not fun. And so, but when we have each other and we can work through this together, it's amazing what God will do. God is bigger. He's bigger than all of it. So God bless you all. I'll be back next week at 6:00 Pacific time. And Dawn, thank you for being here with me.
Thank you.
We're going to have to go on another cruise.
2020, right?
It was a lot of fun. All right, everybody, take care. Good night.